The Middle Ages was a period of human history that spanned from the 5th to the 15th century. During this time, Europe experienced a series of plagues that ravaged the continent, killing millions of people. Plague doctors were medical professionals who were tasked with treating and containing the spread of the plague. They were a common sight during the Middle Ages, and their iconic costumes and masks have become synonymous with the period. The Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague, was one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. It first appeared in China in the 1330s and quickly spread to Europe through trade routes, and it would continue to wreak havoc on the continent for the next 4 centuries. As the plague swept through Europe, the medical profession was ill-equipped to deal with it. Physicians had little knowledge of infectious diseases, and they lacked the tools and medicines to combat the plague. In response, city officials began to hire laypeople to care for the sick and dying. These individuals were not trained in medicine, but they were given rudimentary instructions on how to care for the sick and how to prevent the spread of the disease. The first recorded instance of a plague doctor occurred in the city of Marseille in 1720. Charles Delorme, a physician, developed a special costume for himself and his assistants to protect them from the disease. The costume consisted of a wide-brimmed hat, a long coat, gloves, boots, and a mask with a long beak. The beak of the mask was filled with aromatic substances such as herbs, spices, and flowers to protect the wearer from the bad air that was believed to cause the disease. Plague doctors were responsible for treating and caring for those who had contracted the plague. They would visit the homes of the sick and dying, providing them with basic care and comfort. This included providing food and water, changing their bedding, and cleaning their wounds. They would also administer treatments such as bleeding, purging, and the use of herbal remedies. In addition to caring for the sick, plague doctors were also responsible for preventing the spread of the disease. They would quarantine those who had contracted the disease, as well as their families and anyone else who had come into contact with them. They would also burn the belongings and homes of those who had died from the plague to prevent the spread of the disease. Plague doctors were also responsible for collecting the bodies of those who had died from the plague. They would transport the bodies to mass graves or crematoriums where they would be disposed of. This was a dangerous job, as the bodies were highly contagious and could easily infect those who came into contact with them. Being a plague doctor during the Middle Ages was a challenging and dangerous profession. Plague doctors were often viewed with suspicion and fear by the general population. They were associated with death and disease, and many people believed that they were responsible for spreading the plague. Plague doctors also faced the risk of contracting the disease themselves. Despite their protective clothing and masks, they were still at risk of infection. The long hours and close proximity to the sick and dying put them at great risk of contracting the disease. Another challenge faced by plague doctors was the lack of medical knowledge and treatments available at the time. The medical profession was still in its infancy. This meant that plague doctors had to rely on basic remedies, such as bleeding and herbal remedies. These treatments were often ineffective and could even make the patient's condition worse. Plague doctors also faced social and economic challenges. Many people were afraid to associate with them, which made it difficult for them to earn a living. They were often paid poorly for their services, and some were even forced to work for free. Plague doctors were also at risk of being attacked or killed by angry mobs who blamed them for the spread of the disease. Despite these challenges, many plague doctors continued to work tirelessly to care for the sick and dying. They risked their own lives to help others, and their dedication to their work was often unrecognized and unappreciated. The life of a plague doctor during the Middle Ages was a difficult and dangerous one. Plague doctors played a crucial role in caring for the sick and preventing the spread of the disease. They faced numerous challenges, including the risk of infection, social and economic discrimination, and the lack of effective medical treatments. Despite these challenges, many plague doctors continued to work tirelessly to care for the sick and dying. Their contributions to society during this dark period in human history should not be forgotten, and their bravery and dedication should be celebrated. Are you a history buff looking to expand your knowledge? Check out our videos or subscribe to our channel for regular history videos.